Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me once again today. Welcome to MarketFaith.Online. My name is Deji Agboade. I'm your host and I'm delighted to welcome you. Today and over the next couple of videos, I want to talk about some of the factors that are responsible for growth in any business and in any organization. Today I want to start out by looking at some of the metrics that you should be looking at in your business and in your career. Because today's video is going to benefit those of us that are doing business as well as those of us that are in one career or the other. So this is going to be very important. You want to invite your friends to join in. You want to share this video with your friends and colleagues because it's going to be super helpful. All right. Okay. So today I want to look at metrics, right? What are some of the things that we look at in business? What are some of the things that we look at in our personal careers that helps us to measure whether we're doing well or not in our business or in our career? Because many times when businesses are not doing well, chances are that they are measuring the wrong things. They're looking at the wrong thing. Why? Because when you're looking at the right thing, you will be able to see where there are gaps and you can address those gaps to ensure that the business can grow in the way that it ought to. So when you're not seeing those gaps, chances are that you're looking at the wrong thing and you are measuring the wrong thing in your business. I call them, they are called Vanity Metrics, all right? And they are value-added metrics. Vanity metrics are ego metrics. They're metrics that boost your ego, but do practically nothing for the business. Value-added, as the name suggests, are value-added metrics that actually add value to your business because they help you see some of the things that you're doing right or wrong and how you can address those things. You can come up with the strategies to address those things. So in our businesses, there are vanity metrics and there are value-added metrics. In our careers, I've also seen vanity metrics and value-added metrics. So what we're going to do today and over the next few videos is to talk about a few vanity metrics and value-added metrics in our business and in our career. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk about two metrics that are important for businesses, and I'll talk about one metric for career. I'll talk about another set of two, and then I'll talk about for business, and I'll talk about another one in our careers. All right. And obviously, because in a business, you have more things that you're measuring versus in a personal career. So we're going to dive in now and start by talking about two metrics that are very important in our business, as well as one metric that are important in our careers. And we'll do that over the next couple of videos just so that we can help ourselves and see some of the things that we should be looking at in our business. But let me also say this before we move on, right? The rule of thumb is this. Any metric that is an absolute figure is most likely not the metric you should be looking at. I'll say that again. Any absolute metric is usually, generally speaking, not what you should be looking at alone. You should be looking at it in comparison with something else. So that's the first thing, and that's the first rule of thumb. So let's start and look at it, right? Some of the wrong things people look at and the right things that you should be looking at in your business is things like turnover, all right? People look at turnover, revenue, and besides revenue, turnover, they're typically the same thing, all right? So for the purpose of the video, they're same thing. I know that sometimes people define turnover as velocity and frequency, but for the purpose of this video, turnover and sales and revenue are the same thing, all right? So when people look at turnover in absolutes, that's a vanity metrics. It's an ego metric. It's just something that you say, oh, I did 100 billion last year. I did 20 billion last year. Okay, yes, I hear you, but what exactly should you be looking at, right? You should be looking at actually what are your margins, right? Your gross margins, your net margins, and all those types of things, right? You should be looking at your turnover in comparison with other people in your industry. What are you doing versus what are they doing? One of the other things you should be looking at as far as your turnover is concerned are your sources of revenue. That's very important. So as a business person, right, if your revenue comes from multiple sources, so if you do some sort of customer segmentation and you realize that you have some customers who are individuals, you have customers who are family people, so let's use an example. Let's assume you run a supermarket, right? In a supermarket, there are different types of customers. There are people who come to shop for their family needs. There are people who are just passing by and all of that. You must understand where the bulk of your revenue comes from. The reason why is that when you know where the bulk of your revenue comes from, you can then attract more people in that category and in that space. So looking at revenue alone is a vanity metric, but looking at your gross margins, looking at your net margins, and gross margin is your gross profit divided by your turnover. Okay, very, very important. Your gross profit divided by your turnover. In my view, that's even more important than the turnover, because if you keep on increasing your turnover but you're not making money, you're easily going to get into debt, and it's going to be a big problem for you. Okay, so the first thing we're looking at is, instead of looking at turnover only, which is an ego measure, and there's nothing wrong with, turnover is a great figure because you use it to compare something else, but look at your gross margins, right? Let your eyes be fixed a lot on your gross margins. Okay, the second metric that a lot of people look at to determine whether their business is growing or not is number of employees. Okay, last year we had 5 employees. This year we have grown to 10 employees. Okay, I hear you. All right, but that in itself is not enough. All right, what you should be looking at is revenue per employee. All right, how much are you making? Are you making more money by adding new staff, or you are losing money? Especially when you have sales representatives and when you have people that are helping you in your particular business. All right, you need to ask yourself, if I add an executive assistant, is it going to help me grow in my turnover, or is going to reduce from my growth as a business? All right, so revenue per employee, gross margin or gross profit per employee is also very, very important. Don't just look at the fact that your employees have increased. Look at the contribution per employee to the growth of your organization. Now, even when your employees are not directly revenue facing and they are not responsible for bringing in income into the business, you still should check your revenue per employee, because you may be bloated very soon. And the reason why people have a bloated organization, because every organization should be a pyramid, and in some cases you find that the pyramid is almost becoming a rectangle, right? And the reason why is that people are not measuring whether the addition of every new employee is increasing their bottom line or not. So that's something that is very important and something that you want to look at. Now, let's talk about employees. All right, what are some of the metrics that employees look at that I consider vanity metrics? Right, one of the first ones is growth or increase in salary. Okay, all right, many employees look at their salary and they are super delighted when their salary increases. They forget one thing, right? That when goods increase, they are increased that eat them. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 11. So the fact that your salary has increased has not really added significant value to you if you are not saving more than you were when your salary increased. So what you should be looking at is not just your increase in salary. You should be looking at your growth in savings. If you're not looking at growth in savings and you're only looking at the fact that your salary was moved from 1 million naira to 1.5 million, if that increase has not affected and you are still saving 10%, right? You were earning 100 million. You were earning a million and you were saving 10%. Now you are earning 1.5 million and you are still saving 10%. My brother, I'm not so sure that, that is a lot of progress, okay? Because the fact that your salary is increasing should help you also increase how much you can put aside for your future. That's very important. Many people are just excited by the fact that their salary is increased. And to them, what that means is that they can afford more stuff. But that's not what it should do for you. What it should do for you is first and foremost to ask yourself, how much more can I save now than I was saving before, now that my salary is increased? All right. Those are 3 metrics that I think will be super helpful for you. All right. We can only cover those 3 for today. Next video, I'm going to try and cover maybe about 6 more before we try to wrap this up. All right. But there are so many metrics that we look at in our business that we need to think about differently. These numbers in their absolute are not altogether bad, but for you to get the optimal value from those statistics and that data, you must be comparing it with something else, because the value of data is in its comparables. The value of data is in his comparables. Thank you so much for joining me today on Market Faith. I hope this has been helpful. I look forward to seeing you next time. Don't forget, share this video with a friend, comment below, let me know what you think. And if you have other metrics that you think we need to talk about, please send them our way. I will be glad to look at it with you. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.